In case you missed it, a couple of days ago I spoke with none other than Tom Nash about all things Palantir. We talked about how you need to appreciate PLTR's past, Palantir's competition, similarities to Tesla, staying 5 years ahead as Karp always says. We discussed the insider selling FUD and the Class F voting rights, as well as Q2 expectations, long-term guidance, moving down market, a timeline for a consumer product, building a sales team for that B2C product, how he does Palantir DCFs, the tangible value and ROI of Foundry, how Palantir is his highest conviction stock, and why I should get Alex Karp on the channel. We talked about so much, so if you've not already seen it, I very much recommend watching it. But I brought that up to say that during our segment for the Q2 expectations, and more just commenting on the company and the financials and the stock in general, he brought up a key indicator for himself is looking at how the business evolves, especially the segmentation between Foundry and Gotham, the commercial and government products and revenues. So I thought today, as a follow-up to that, I would show you just how that breaks down in the last quarter and the last year over year and quarter over quarter changes. Let's go. So other things I was very intrigued by that Tom Nash said during our interview was, number one, being that he expects Palantir to deliver greater than 50% annualized growth year over year for about 10 years, if I'm getting that right. Now, he said that is just an average and that there is an exponential nature to what he's expecting to happen, but you average it out, he's expecting very, very high growth, much higher than what Palantir is guiding for, so that stood out to me. The other thing was he's expecting a consumer product very soon in the medium term, I would put it. He said he would be looking for a consumer product somewhere around an announcement around 2025 or so, which is way ahead of when I would be expecting it. Now, the great thing about having guests on this channel and for me talking to other people is to get a better diversity of thought and a better understanding of where other people stand on these sorts of topics. So while I think it may take much longer for Palantir to develop a consumer product, it's nevertheless great to have the other side of the argument. They will release one much sooner, and having the sales force dedicated and growing is an indication of that future soon to arrive. Anyways, to the matter at hand, here we are on Palantir's 10K. This is a comparison of the years ended December 31st, 2020 and 2019. So here we see on the side here, revenue being government and commercial. Government on the top, commercial on the bottom. So if I just zoom in here, let's break this out. We've got the calculator on the side here. So from 2019 to 2018, government growth increased by 77%, and from 2019 to 2018, commercial revenue only rose by 22%. So you'll see an extreme disparity there, which will lead to some very surprising results in my opinion. Many people are looking for government revenue to be eclipsed by commercial revenue in the near future for Palantir. Even Wall Street is expecting this. I've looked at many articles where Wall Street is looking for government revenue to be eclipsed, as I just said, by commercial revenue. But once I run the numbers here, you will see this is actually not currently the case for 2020 compared to 2019. And then I'll show you quarterly, Q1 2020 compared to Q1 2021. And I think the results are very surprising. So here we go. Commercial revenue, 379,034,000 divided by the total revenue for the year, which was 702,555, and that is in millions. So actually, I probably shouldn't have it on dollar because that is a percentage. Palantir's percent revenue for commercial in the year 2019 was 51%. As you'll see, that is a higher figure than this one. So Palantir actually had greater than 50% commercial revenue for 2019. Now keep that number in mind. I'll put it right there so you remember it. Whereas for 2020, we have 428,475 million divided by 1,092,673, which if you multiply by 100 is only 44% concentration of revenue. So I'll drop that up there. So comparatively, 55 compared to 41 is actually a significant decrease and drop off for 2020 compared to 2019. Now, why could that be? Well, that's the question. How did Palantir manage to either A, grow their business for the government side, or B, fail to grow their commercial revenue? Those are the two ways to look at this. So I'll get you some more conclusions on on that. But first, let's take a look now at the quarter that did not just end, but Q1 2021 versus Q1 2020. And while I get this set up, if you could drop a like if you appreciate my digging through these SEC filings, that would be greatly appreciated. So here we are, same type of thing, government revenue on the top, commercial on the bottom, total revenue under that. So you'll see this is for Q1, that pretty much just means Q1 right there. Government up here, commercial on the bottom. So you can already see 118 here is slightly greater than 111. But then here in 2021, 208 is significantly, comparatively, greater than 132. So in both cases, the government revenues are leading the way in Q1. So if we bring out the calculator, 111, 200 divided by 229, 327 is, for Q1 2020, we have a total of 48% concentration of commercial revenue. We'll drop that there. Now let's compare it to Q1 2021, which we will now see 341,234 times 100%. Once I populate this, it dropped all the way down to 38.9%. So almost a 10% drop off in the concentration of revenue. So let's remember why we are looking at this. So I only have the full year data for 2019 and 2020 since 2021 is not yet done, but we do, as we just did, looked at the most recent data. We'll have an update on this. This is part of the reason for this video. We will have an update on this for Q2 21, which we will thus be able to compare and contrast this data with what we see in the future. But anyway, the main takeaway is that we want commercial revenue to end up being greater than government revenue, not because there's any real reason for the differentiation between these two, other than to say that commercial revenue, in my opinion, and I think Wall Street gets this too, is much more scalable. Government revenue, there's only so much of it that you can get, but commercial revenue, if Palantir continues to move down market from these high-end businesses down to even startups that we've seen them doing more recently, there's nearly an endless amount of clients they can possibly get. But for government, you don't really have as much leeway. Sure, there is some to get. There's definitely an increase to be had, but not as much as where there is for commercial. So to see a decline in the concentration of commercial revenue is actually a little concerning. Now, we do have to take into account that this was the pandemic taking action, and that could be a reason for why the government revenue did take a step up while commercial revenue took a step back. So let me just leave you with some closing thoughts. Palantir, I believe, is well suited to serve both governments and big businesses and even small businesses when they're struggling with the pandemic. There's no reason why Palantir can't grow both their divisions equally and rapidly. Of course, it's not going to always be the same amount of growth, but there's no reason why they can't both grow. That being said, I do think there are many reasons why Palantir's foundry revenue will likely drastically increase in the future. First of which being their move down market and their adjacent moves to IBM and Amazon Web Services, where their software can be used there, increasing revenue, but also Foundry for Builders, which is pretty much a beta at this point, but will continue to be opened up. And I think as that does, there will be much greater scale for those businesses and really open up the floodgates. I'm not sure how long that will take, but then we also have the demo days, the double clicks that demonstrate to a given business in a given industry why Foundry is a necessity for what they do. So I think this really is going to be a waiting game for us investors to see how this plays out. I look very much forward to the Q2 earnings in early August when we get the update on this, and I'll be sure to update you and see how the percentages look then. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Personally, I was fairly shocked to see Palantir's commercial revenue drop off, especially after I had just finished talking with Tom and he said he wanted to see, and I do too, I've said this before, all Palantir shareholders want the commercial revenue to skyrocket. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on when you think that will happen. Until next time.